Gaining understanding of this temporary life, trials and tribulations also lead us to a deep understanding of Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That indeed we belong to Allah and indeed to Allah we return. This is a deep understanding that not only do we control nothing but own nothing. Everything we have belongs to God and everything we have will return to God. This understanding will free us and allow us to survive the deepest of loss. Our loved ones belong to Allah, our possessions belongs to Allah, our every ability belongs to Allah. These are gifts from Him and they return to Him. This is why Allah says in the Quran, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُم بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to those who patiently persevere. Those who, when disaster strikes them, they say, Indeed we belong to God, and indeed to Him we will return. Quran 2 from verse 155 to 156. This statement is not just words said by the tongue, it is an entire paradigm. It is a way of seeing the world. In this ayah, Allah prepares us for the different kinds of trial which we will experience in this world, that is fear, hunger, and loss. And then He gives glad tidings, that is Bushra to the one who have suffered patient perseverance. This is amazing because we do not typically hear a person congratulating or giving glad tidings to someone who has just experienced loss or hardship. Allah is saying to give good news to that person. Allah is actually giving glad tidings to the people who have lost something or someone they love. Why? Because those who have suffered are given three priceless gifts. The people of Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un will be gifted with divine blessings, mercy, and guidance. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. Those are the ones upon whom are blessings from their Lord and mercy, and it is those who are the rightly guided. Quran 2 157. Understanding that everything belongs to Allah is the first step to this salvation. Imagine that a very generous friend allows you to borrow their car, and because of their generosity, they will allow you to keep that car for 10 years. But imagine that during that decade you had amnesia and forgot the car and forgot who the car actually belonged to. When then that generous friend comes to take their own car back, the one who forgot who it belonged to will respond with anger and resentment. That person might say things like, How could you do this to me? How could you take my car? It's not fair. But why does that happen? This happened because this person forgot who the car actually belonged to. If that person never had amnesia and remembered that the car in fact belonged to the generous friend, then, when the friend comes to take it back, what will their response be? It belongs to you, and to you it returns. You might be sad to part with it, but ultimately it is recognized that the friend owns the car. That is what Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un means. It is a realization that our spouse, our children, our money, our health all belong to Allah. They always belong to Allah, and to Allah they return. And responding in this way brings priceless divine blessings and gifts. Beloved author C.S. Lewis addresses a similar concept when he spoke to students at Oxford in October of 1939. Less than 2 months after the outbreak of World War II, in his address, he begins by asking how it will be possible for life to continue as usual when the lives of our friends and the liberties of Europe are in the balance. He answers the war creates no absolutely new situation, it simply aggravates the permanent human situation so that we can no longer ignore it. Human life has always been lived on the edge of the precipice. Lewis continues, Wall threatens us with death and pain. No man, and especially no Christian who remembers Gethsemane, need try to attain a stoic indifference about these things, but we can guard against the illusions of the imagination. What does war do to that? It certainly does not make it more frequent. 100% of us die, and the percentage cannot be increased, and the percentage cannot be increased. War makes death real to us, and that would have been regarded as one of its blessings by most of the great Christians of the past. They thought it good for us to be always aware of our mortality. I am inclined to think they were right. All the animal life in us, all schemes of happiness that centered in this world were always doomed to a final frustration. In ordinary times, only a wise man can realize it. Now, the stupidest of us none. We see unmistakably the sort of universe in which we all have along been living and must come to terms with it. Tests in our relationships. When we are tested in our relationships, there are several purposes which these types of trials can serve. The first one is service. When we are given gifts by God, such as knowledge or any skill or talent, these gifts are also tests. They honor us because but they also place us in a position to help serve and save others. If we use these gifts for this purpose, we will be given more by the giver. We are also tested in love when we are given gifted, that is, people with love, wealth, status, or power. Many people fail in this test when they begin to love the gift more than the giver. If that happens, the gift itself becomes a barrier rather than a path to Allah. Inspiration and lessons for others. We may also be tested through injury. These injuries may or may not be inflicted by the hands of the others, but sometimes our response to these injuries serves as a mean of saving or inspiring others. For example, some people are brought closer to Allah by serving the heroic or inspiring response of others who have been tested or afflicted. This phenomena is demonstrated a lot in literature and poetry. For example, there are times when forgiveness can free another person. In his famous novel Les Miserables, Victor Hugo writes about this phenomenon. Hugo describes a convict named Jean Valjean who was forever branded by his past sins. Many years prior, he stole a loaf of bread to feed his starving niece. From that day forward, he was known as a thief and could not escape the branding. One day, a bishop allowed Valjean to stay that night in his home. That night, Valjean stole again from the bishop out of desperation and tried to escape. The police caught Valjean and returned him to the bishop's home along with the silver he had stolen. This was the point when Valjean's life would transform. The bishop was determined to help Jean Valjean see him his potential. To do that, it required that Jean Valjean experience forgiveness first. The bishop not only forgave Valjean, he even offered him more silver and said to him, Jane Valjean, my brother, you no longer belong to evil. With this silver I bought your soul. I have ransomed you from fear and hatred, and now I give you back to God. From that day forward, Jane Valjean became a different person. He became an honest and honorable man who went out of his way to help those in need.